All right. May peace and power elevation be to all you. What's up? This your girl Tiffany coming through right here alive in effect on the StreamYard. So today I want to deal with the Daily Blade history as usual. So I'm going to talk about motion pictures, right? And black cinema. So it's very important. So it's gonna be two topics that I'm dealing with: the Lincoln Motion Picture Company and also Tyler Perry. So I want to deal with that, and I want to look at and now I want to look into that history. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start with the Lincoln Motion Picture. Then I'm gonna proceed on with the Tyler Perry of being listed as a billionaire in the Forbes magazine. All right. So what is Lincoln Motion Picture Company? All right, first of all, let me show you the pictures. Okay. So right here is the Lincoln Motion Picture Companies. These are the actors, and it says colored movie pictures. It says the realization of a Negro's ambition at Lincoln Electric Park Monday and Tuesday. So this is one of their advertisement. Okay. All right, so let's go into the history. So the history of Lincoln Motion Picture Company began. African American audiences were generally ignored by the major motion picture studios in the first 2 decades of the 20th century. Nonetheless, demand for films aimed at black theaters in both the South and larger northern cities prompted the formation of several black motion picture production companies. And most of these black owned enterprises were outside of Southern California. Ebony Films and the William Foster Studio were based in Chicago, Illinois. The Norman Film Company was formed in Jacksonville, Florida. Others like Peter P. Jones Photoplay Company and the Afro American Film Company were also founded in the Midwest. Sensing a market, major Hollywood studios like Fox and Paramount eventually created so-called race film units in the late 1920s, which produced all black cast movies that they shaped to appeal simultaneously to white and black audience. So here's the history about the Lincoln Motion Picture. So the Lincoln Motion Picture Company in Omaha, Nebraska is considered the first all-black movie production unit in the country. Its entire output was aimed directly at African American viewers. Founded in 1916 by brothers Noble and George Johnson and soon relocated to Los Angeles, the company made the company made and distributed 5 films, which were generally limited to special showings for African Americans in churches and small assembly halls. However, production expenses and minimal sales limited their ability to create additional films. As a result, the brothers went their separate ways. Their lack of long-term success, however, were only prolonged to a burst of activity by small all African American filmmakers that would grow enormously by the mid 1940s, when literally hundreds of films from musical featurettes to longer films would proliferate not only in southern locations but also in larger northern cities. So now that's the history. Okay, that's the history going into the Lincoln Motion Pictures. So the reason why that company started because a lot of African Americans wasn't getting opportunity in the movie industry during that time period. So this company happened to be one of the first to open up and to cater to African American audience. And as I listed, there was other names of movie theaters movie film production that was located in different parts of the states, such as Illinois and California. and Florida and places like that. But this one happened to start it in Omaha, Nebraska. So that's where this production started, right in the Midwest. And it was just opening up the doors to opportunity. But now today, you got more and more Black celebrities, right? That's getting more opportunity in the films, and they're making a lot more money. And then you even got Blacks who are film producers and who have their own studios that's making the enormous amount of income, and they have got a chance, an opportunity to see themselves at the higher level of success to where they become billionaires. And one of them happened to be Tyler Perry. So I want to go ahead and get on this Tyler Perry concept real fast. But let's take a look at the founder, or one of the founders of Lincoln Motion Picture. Let's look up Noble Johnson real fast. Oh, as a matter of fact, I got an article right here that I want to show y'all. So here's an article called The Milestone in Black Film History, the Lincoln Motion Picture Company, 1916 to 1923. Okay. BFC/A host is Carl Franklin. All right. And then go down here. It says Milestone in Black Film History, the Lincoln Motion Pictures Company. And it says the Lincoln Motion Picture Company was the first owned and operated first Black owned and operated film corporation to produce and distribute nationally films by and about African Americans, known as the best advertised and mostly widely known race corporation in the world. Lincoln's purpose was to portray Blacks in a more positive light rather than the stereotypical image of slapstick comedy and humiliating burlesque so popular at the time. The board member were Noble M. Johnson, President Dr. J. Thomas Smith, Vice President and Treasurer Clarence A. Brooks, Secretary Dooley A. Brooks, Assistant Secretary Willis O. Tyler, Attorney. The only white member on the board, Harry Grant, served as the cameraman. All right. So these are the list of film. Realization of a Negro Ambition, which was released in 1916. Trooper of Company K, 1916. The Law of Nature, 1917. A Man's Duty, which was in 1919. And By Right of Birth, which was 1921. All right. And it says the films that Lincoln's Motion Picture Company produced starring Johnson were more successful than those by white-owned Universal Picture Company, which featured their big stars out that day. It is speculated that Universal could not accept being outperformed by Johnson and the Lincoln Company. So Johnson was forced to resign from Lincoln Motion Picture, which eventually led to the demise of the company in 1923. So again, it didn't last very long because the major companies, which was particularly white owned, they felt like, no, we can't have Blacks trying to outshine us and try to profit off of us more. So we got to do something to stop this. So eventually the company did not last. It only lasted maybe, how many years would that be? It only lasted 7 years. And then after that, the company just disappeared. So it has not been taught much about in Black history. So this happened to be one of the first films, and because of this film production, it has opened doors for opportunity for people like Spike Lee, Ice Cube, right? The late John Singleton and Tyler Perry to become the biggest name in film production. All right. So yeah, let me look up Noble Johnson real fast, and then we're gonna talk about Mr. Perry. Okay. All right, so let me show you guys who is Noble Johnson and give you a brief background of who he is. Okay, so this picture right here of this guy, this is Noble Johnson. All right, this is one of the founders of Lincoln Motion Picture. And let's take a look at his biography real quick. Okay, here it is right here. I just pulled it up. So, Mark Noble, known as Noble Johnson, was an American actor and film producer. He appeared in films such as The Mummy, Most Dangerous Game in 1932, King Kong, and Song of Kong. So check this out. It says, standing 6'2" and 215 pounds, his impressive physique and handsome features made him demand as a character actor and bit player in the silent era. He essayed a wide variety of characters of different races in a plethora of films, primary serials, Western, and adventure movies. While Johnson was cast as Black in many films, he also played Native American and Latino parts and exotic characters such as Arabians, or even a devil in hell in Dante's Inferno. So let's get down to here where he got started in his own production. Noble was good friends with fellow actor Lon Chaney, his schoolmate in Colorado, and was also an entrepreneur, founding in 1916 his own studio to produce what were called race films, movies made for African American audience, which was ignored by the mainstream film industry. The Lincoln Motion Picture Company, in existence until 1921, was an African American film company apart from director Harry A. Gant, and the first to produce movies portraying African Americans as real people instead as racist caricature. Johnson was followed into the race film business by Oscar Michael and others. Johnson, who served as president of the company, was its primary assets as a star actor, helped support the studio by acting in other companies' productions such as 20,000 League Under the Sea, which was in 1916, and investing his pay from those films in Lincoln. It says Lincoln's first picture was the realization of a Negro ambition. 4 years later, Johnson managed to keep Lincoln a going concern primarily through his extraordinary commitments to African American filmmaking. However, he reluctantly resigned as president in 1920 because he no longer could continue his double business life, maintaining a demanding career in Hollywood films while trying to run a studio. All right. And it says that he died of a natural cause death on July the 9th, 1978. All right. In Eusebia, California. He is buried in the Garden of Peace at Eternal Valley Memorial Park in Newhall, California. So, yeah, so he had a life of working in Hollywood films and trying to maintain the business. So he was trying to earn double income, but it was complicated for him and he was unable to do so. So basically, Noble just decided to just give it on up and just focus on being an actor altogether, because he knew that he was not going to be able to succeed going against major studio companies like Universal or Columbia and Paramount. So, all right. Now let's go ahead and talk about Mr. Tyler Perry. All right. So Tyler Perry has made his name. He has made his name the within the mainstream. So Tyler started off being homeless right in Atlanta. He's originally from New Orleans, but he came to Atlanta when he was a teenager, and he started off homeless because he didn't have much. And once he started making some revenue, he started being able to write films, write plays and things of that nature. So he started writing plays. Then when he started making money off those plays, he began to buy up his studio in an area called Oakland City, which is located in Southwest Atlanta. So from right there, it was a small. Well, it wasn't really a small studio. It was a decent size, but that's where he was doing a lot of his plays. Then once some income started coming in, then he expanded the studio to 330 acres of land. And just last year, he opened up that studio. Also, Tyler made his name in the big films, right, with Madea. That was his main character that he played. So Madea was no nonsense, disciplinary, elderly woman from the South, particularly from the country, and she had a lot of run-ins from the law. But at the end of the day, she had a good heart too. So she tries to bring people together, try to bring family together. Now, in the beginning, Tyler Perry's plays were based on Christianity concept. It was a combination of, how can I say? It was a combination of secular and spirituality mixed together. So you will hear a lot of concept about Jesus, God, and things of that nature, because that's what the central foundation was, that element. And that's where it started. And then it grown into the mainstream, but it never left that background. But what made it so popular was because of his character, Madea. That's what made it very popular. So Tyler Perry has been around for a while. This man been around since the early 2000s. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm talking about him, because it's very important, not only because he got a studio, but because he's a billionaire. He made his billions off of just making plays, movies, and owning his own studio, which sits on 330 acres of land in a location what was formerly known as a military base that was called Fort McPherson. That's where his studio is. So let me go ahead and read the article real fast. All right, so it comes from CBSnews.com. It says Tyler Perry is Hollywood's newest billionaire, Forbes says. And this was written today on September 3rd, 2020. Check this out. Tyler Perry is Hollywood's newest billionaire, according to Forbes. The magazine announced on Tuesday that the popular filmmaker has joined the elite club after estimating his net worth at $1 billion. Best known for his Madea movies, Perry's journey from poverty to billionaire status has been driven by his ambition to own everything he does. I love when people say you come from humble beginnings. The 51-year-old entertainer told Forbes it means you were poor as hell. Ownership, he said, changes everything. From his 22 feature films and 24 plays, over 1,200 television episodes, Perry owns everything he creates. The Atlanta-based creator also owns a 330-acre studio in the city. Forbes' breakdown of the star's billion-dollar fortune includes $300 million in cash and investment and a $60 million stake in BET Plus. Forbes says Perry owns in Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, and Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and other assets are valued at $40 million. The magazine attributes $320 million of his fortune to his library of work and says his new studio complex, the largest film production studio in the United States, is worth $280 million. It says, with these sources of income, Forbes estimate Perry has earned over $1.4 billion in pre-tax income in the past 15 years. The high school dropout said he did not receive any formal education on how to be a businessman. You got to understand, I had no mentors, Perry told Forbes. My father doesn't know anything about business. My uncles and mother, they knew nothing about this. I didn't go to business school. Everything I learned in progress. Now, wow. Forbes says Perry has a clear path to future membership in the Forbes 400 list of the wealthiest Americans. Now, Tyler Perry, he dropped out of school, right? He knew nothing about business. He knew nothing about how to create wealth. He had to learn as he go because he came from poverty. He came from a very poor family. Excuse me. Wow. Yeah, he came from a very poor family where he didn't learn all these things. He didn't acquire these information. The reason why I posted up Mr. Tyler because he has the biggest influence within the Black community. And now there's people that's out here making criticism about him, saying that, oh, well, he ain't do people in particular in the Atlanta area saying that, well, the studio was supposed to be belong to for other things, but Tyler Perry got all this money, and what about the poor Black people, etc. Well, let me say this. Tyler Perry, if you look at his films, right, predominantly speaking, he has Black people. Predominantly speaking, in all his films, it's mostly consists of African Americans and a few other races of people. And his studio sits right there in the heart, in the ghetto of Oakland City. Okay, the largest film. This studio is larger than Paramount's Universal alone. The reason why he created that studio, because at one point in time when he did want to do something with Hollywood, right, with Paramount, they wouldn't really give him a chance. They wanted the ownership. They wanted to own his production. Okay, they wanted his profit. And he was like, nah, I tell you what, I'm finna go on over here and build my own thing. I'm finna do my own thing over here. Cause see, if that's gotta be like this, it gotta be like that where I gotta give a certain percentage and I'm not gonna get as much opportunity in Hollywood, then I'll go build my own over there. But ironically speaking, he has a Hollywood star. But it's so funny when people say, you know, it's crazy to me because we want our people to succeed, right? We want our people to have all the things they need. We want to be able to buy land and be able to build wealth in our community. But when we see somebody wealthy and that's doing exactly just that, it's a problem. This man brought up more than 40 acres, okay? This man became a billionaire. He didn't sell drugs. He didn't prostitute anybody. He was just doing plays. And because of his plays and films alone, that will earn him the profit. And he was also executive producer for other films. You know, but it's funny that we can sit here and we can talk about how our people need to have this, need to have their own, but when we have our own, we criticize them. And at the end of the day, when it comes to the poor people in the community, it's not so much that you got to blame Tyler Perry, because that's not really his fault. You have to blame the city council. You have to blame the mayor for that. The reason why, because at the end of the day, they the ones calling the shots. They the ones saying that yay or nay. So the point is, if you want some type of resources for the community, that's something you have to really take over with the politician. I mean, yes, we need help. Yes, we need the resources, but that's up to the politician. Because if the politician are the ones that gonna make that decision and tell you what you can build, what you cannot build. There's been people on account that has wanted to do things that was contributing to those who are in absolute poverty, such as those who are homeless. And do you know what happened? The city told them no. The city said you can't do it. You can't, no, not here. And guess what? The land was sold to someone else. So the city government had other bigger things in mind besides giving back to those who are homeless. So at the end of the day, it's not so much of the fault of Tyler Perry, because he deserved that wealth because he worked hard for it. That's not easy. That's more so of the city, the government's fault. The government is at fault because they won't comply with the people. So before anybody can sit here and blame Mr. Perry, you need to blame Keisha Bottom and all the city councils that's around for the lack of work they're doing. That's who really need to get the blame. Governor Kemp, he needs to get the blame. Because we can't expect for these celebrities to do for us what the government should have been done, should been doing already. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, they're not politicians, okay? Now, Tyler may work in conjunction with the politician to get things done, but that's all he can do. So don't think just because he's a billionaire that he can automatically do everything. You got to understand, this is a rat race, okay? This is a competition. And not only is a competition, but at the end of the day, because he's African American, yeah, he might be up there in the billions, but he's not going to get that much recognition, okay? He's not going to get that type of higher status as you think. So it is what it is. You know, we still deal with a dominant society that's ran by people who consider themselves privileged. So it's a very tricky game out here. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching, for those of you. And with that being said, may peace and elevation be to all of you. And until next time, I'll reconnect with you guys later. Please be safe and take it easy, all right? This your girl, Tiffany, and I'm out.